Hi again, everybody. This is Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different niches, just people doing really cool things in their space. So we talk to athletes, we talk to CEOs, we talk to entrepreneurs, scientists, people that are just doing really cool things to move the needle and hear a bit about their journey and the things that they're doing, and hopefully things that you can translate into your own lives as well. I know we have one of those today, and we're going to be really excited about kind of jumping into that interview. One thing I have to do just before we jump into all of that is acknowledge one of our sponsors, which is Epitome Sportswear. And they have designed everything to help kind of unlock your full potential and perform at your best. And the cool thing is that they, like us here at Big Idea, Big Moves, believe in whole life success. So a lot of their clothing isn't just about having a really good workout. It's also making sure that you're comfortable going on that nice hike, whether it's in winter like it is where we are right now, and or it might be going to a big game of your child. So all those different things. The other cool thing is that they give back to the community that they serve as well. So they are working to impact the inequities in opportunity for girls and women in sport, and that aligns really nicely with what we do. And for that reason, a portion of their profits go directly to organizations and initiatives that support girls in sport. So definitely check them out. We've got them through our bio. You can check it out there, or just go directly to epitomesportswear.com. That's EPITOME sportswear.com. And so we'll jump right into an interview, which I think is going to be a lot of fun today. We're talking with Katie Knight, and she is the 2021 World's Toughest Mudder champion. She's really powered herself onto the obstacle racing elite scene. Also coming in third, I think, in the Spartan Ultra World Championships as well, has taken on high rocks, and she's been a qualified fitness coach since 2014. And she's worked as a personal trainer at some top CrossFit boxes, as well as in corporate health and wellness facilities, which is kind of cool. So she has a unique connection to that kind of whole life success thing as well. So we're really looking forward to having a bit of a conversation about that, but thanks for taking the time, Katie. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, we're excited too, and you've had a lot of success this year in particular. Lots of really cool things happen along some really big names in the sports that you're kind of aligned with. How's that experience been this year, considering really this is the first time in a while that things have kind of opened up and there's been some races, I guess, to join, and you've done so well this year?
Yeah, it's been really exciting that the kind of race space has opened up since COVID of last year. So the end of this year, I've had a lot of fun. Both races were a great experience. My first time doing either of them, or a 24-hour race. The furthest I've ever ran. So there's an accomplishment. So yeah, it's been a great time.
Very cool. And really doing it in a some of the racers that were against you and kind of in those same things. I mean, is that pretty cool that you get to kind of race alongside the best, I guess, in those races as well?
Oh yeah, like being alongside the top dogs, like Rhea and Telluride is like a really cool experience. They've been doing this for 10 years or something like that, and so being able to jump in and hang with them, and they're just all such like nice, wonderful athletes. So it's been pretty cool.
Well, now one thing is you have a lot of support as you go through these races. I think a lot of people may not know that there's almost a support team, especially in the long races, that you have for that. And you're really good at being able to thank your crew and thank those people. And you've had some really kind of neat names attached with that as well. How important has been the support around those things, especially when you're doing it maybe for the first time?
Yeah, it's your pit crew makes a huge difference. So somebody that you can come in after each lap, since these are like different laps each race. So like Telluride is 5 mile loops, and then they were like 6.7, and then World's Toughest was 5 mile loops. So someone to come when you come into the pit, that's supportive. They're helping you out with refueling. It makes such a difference in just like your mental space and everything. So you really need someone who's pretty solid and is going to be there, because they also have to stay up all night long.
Yeah.
And they can take some naps here and there, but otherwise it's a lot of work for them as well. So yeah, having a good crew. And then in World's Toughest, it's kind of like a huge community. And so you have like pit crew neighbors that kind of jump in and help. And it's just, it makes the race. It can either, I think, make or break how you feel.
Yeah. Now, when you because you talked about there were some of the longest races that you've done,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people I've talked to, that do kind of ultra racing or very long kind of races. No matter what, there's always a point in your head where you have to really kind of battle whether you keep going. First of all, did that happen to you? And second of all, like how do you approach that? How do you get past that time where you can almost psych yourself out of what you're doing?
Right. So in both the 24-hour races that I've just done, there's always a time. It's usually like middle of the night or like before the sun comes up, at least for me.
Yeah.
It's like you got to make it through the night. You got to, get to when the sun comes up again. But yeah, there's always a point where it's like, yeah, I want to go home. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm done moving.
Yeah.
It's been enough, or if you hit like a certain mile marker, usually that's around like, I want to say like 60, 70 miles, where it's like, all right, like this is really where you got to push through. And for me, it's like, I've already done this many hours, this many miles, I might as well keep going. And the goal for Telluride was to move for 24 hours. And I think I made it like 22 or so before like the time cap. But I did move for a solid 24 hours in World's Toughest. So that's like a goal in my head. So when you get to that like mental break point, it's like, keep moving, see how far you can go. So yeah, that's what I do.
And are you one of those people who, before the race, do you kind of visualize things? What do you do to mentally prepare yourself before the race itself even happens?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like self-talk going on. You kind of visualize, the end result of like your goal or what you want to do. For me, it was a certain mileage. But yeah, and then like, when you get nervous or anything, I like to tell like other athletes or friends this, it's like, it's going to happen with or without you. So like, there's really no point to be nervous because you're going to have to do it. You already signed up. You're already here. It's going to happen. So
Yeah. Well,
that's
that goes
usually
for
where I am.
everything. I mean, there's
Uh-huh.
tons of people probably that are thinking, I mean, because this is that start of the year where lots of people start to think about, okay, I have these special goals for the coming year. But that kind of approach probably really is for anything. I mean, it might be a
Yep.
5K for somebody. You might as well, if you get that close to it, I mean, it's going to happen. You might as well jump in. So
Yep. Just
very
like,
cool.
the first of the year is going to come around, whether you're ready or not, it's going to have to happen. I like to think like the hay's in the barn or it's not. And so if you put in the work, just get ready and do it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that kind of brings me on to, because you've done corporate work too, where
Mhm.
and also training work. So those two things are
Right.
very similar, and you've got clients that maybe aren't, I'm sure lots of times they don't have kind of the thought they're going to do a 24-hour race. They're thinking of other things. How do you approach that with them? Like, how do you really connect with somebody who to find out what they really what's
Mhm.
right for them when it comes to goal setting? What's your process around that with them?
Yeah. So I think it's important to meet the client or that athlete or whoever you're training or working with where they're at, and really focus on, their current fitness state, where they want to be, because that's going to be different for everybody. And in the corporate world, they come see me when, it's like their work break. So they have other goals, other focuses with work. And then this is
Yeah.
their time to really like put in other goals outside of work. And so you have to kind of keep that in mind because their head might be somewhere else. But yeah, it's really to meet that person where they're at and then go from there and see what they want to achieve. And if it's, a 5K, great. And we want to build up to eventually a 50K, that's awesome. Or if it's, hitting PRs in the gym with different, Olympic weightlifting movements, because a lot of my background's also in CrossFit and lifting. That's also, important to, get them where they want to be, and connect on that level of like your goals, not just like, comparing to everybody else out there.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you've done lots of kind of CrossFit and some of those
Mhm.
things as well. I usually ask, especially people who are getting to the tops of those sports. Have you
Mhm.
seen a big difference in how high profile some of those things are now compared to even when you started. And I know it wasn't that long ago, but you see that it's has the profile really kind of improved in some of those areas, especially just because there's so many people that are going into those sports that maybe hadn't before.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's really cool that strength and conditioning is really being intermixed into like OCR and stuff. Like my ultra training's a little off the books because I spend probably like more time in the gym than I need to for ultra running, but I think it keeps me really strong and fit and conditioned to keep going and keep that endurance up. And so as those, profiles and sports get a little bit more popular and people get into it, I think it's really good just for all around health, conditioning, especially in the corporate world when people are sitting at their desks all the time, to get out and to move and, do some like movements they might not otherwise when it didn't exist. So, yeah.
Yeah. And do you find when you work with clients like that, is there, they're obviously having to kind of weigh off those other things you talked about. They may have, they may be, heavy hitters in business, but they may also be parents trying to, do all of those things as well. Do you find that that's something you really have to deal with them and help them think through how to balance that a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. And also keeping in mind, like, this is their like hour, maybe hour and a half of the day that they really get to just like be themselves and get into the gym and kind of get out of that space of whether it's like home obligations or work obligations. And so to keep that in mind, really make it like, give it your all and make it really a special experience for them because they're going to go back to work. They're going to go back to their other things. And for them, like I've seen them being able to hit like PRs in the gym or like run a 5K and get to those goals make a huge difference in their work-life balance and their happiness. And so I think it's really important.
Yeah. And you yourself, when you're heading into, you probably you've had a couple of big check marks this year, but as you head into next year, do you, are you a write down your goals kind of person, or you kind of go with the flow a little more? How does that work for you?
Usually I like to write them down and really focus. I'll write down and plan out like the races for the year. And the ones I really want to hit. I don't always like do them all, but kind of make a plan for that, and goals. It's really important to be able to like see them and then keep working towards them throughout the year. This year was a little bit different. I was planned to do Telluride, and then after that and how I felt, I was like, okay, I'll jump into World's Toughest. Maddie Davis is like, you should totally do it. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, as the new year comes around, I got some other like goals for racing, personal life with my own training company. And so writing those down and kind of having a 3, 6, 9, and then year goals, I think can be really important.
Do you have, you've obviously raced with some really kind of cool high profile people, but, when you're looking back at, who you look at as role models or mentors, who have they been for you, like as you've kind of went through your career so far?
Yeah. So my background, I played ice hockey growing up all the way through college as well. And so Wayne Gretzky is actually one of my big role models. Very cool. Kind of a funny one. But then, so my mom is the reason I got into fitness and sports in the first place. She was a big advocate of like, health and wellness, and she was a fitness coach. She had her own training company, and she's still a personal trainer. And so that kind of like motivated me to get into, sport and racing. She got me and like all my siblings, I'm one of 6, into CrossFit. So that's pretty cool. So we all do, we all work out together. But yeah, she's been a big role model for just like a healthy lifestyle, which I'm really lucky to have. Yeah. And
what position did you play in hockey?
Left defense.
Oh, wow. Defense too. Well, so we're Canadian, just so you know. So it's Gretzky is absolutely okay. So that's okay. So what is it, if you were looking at things you want to improve for the coming year? Obviously you've probably got a bit of a plan on, and it depends on what you're entering into or what you want to do, because I'm sure that changes. But are there a couple of areas that you think, I'd really like to get better in this part of my game?
Yeah. My plan is to hit some pretty big ultras, and then I'd love to win both Spartan World Championships and Tough Mudder this coming year, back to back, which would be pretty cool. And then I want to improve on my high rocks game. And so that's the goal as well for end of January for nationals in Chicago. And then there's the championships in Vegas in May. So those are my kind of goals to get to this year. Get into a little bit more Spartan racing since, I've only done like one or three. I've done three. So we'll get some more experience and get going.
That's pretty impressive though, to have done three and been able to do kind of what you're doing. So that's pretty cool. So, and I think I would assume as you head into that new year, I mean, a lot of those races will have, they're going to really, because there will be more of them, you'll probably get a really deep field in a lot of them as well. So there'll probably be that much more kind of happening in that space this coming year, hopefully. So, which is,
I think that a lot of as maybe people are able to travel to and from Europe, we can get more competitors over there for world championships, which will be cool to grow the field and have more people and compete with them all. So
very neat. And so you mentioned that you're also building kind of your fitness company as well, and so there are lots of entrepreneurs who listen and to this as well. How's that going? Have you found it a difficult balance to be able to be kind of doing your training? I know they're very connected, I guess, which helps, but how's that been, learning kind of how to build your business at the same time?
Yeah, it's definitely a learning process. Where, I used to work in big CrossFits or corporate health and wellness where, you show up to the job and you have all that. Instead of with this, you kind of have to be creative and really push and work and keep going where everything's not just set in stone, when you go into a job. So it's been a learning process for sure, and getting clients and, having new initiatives or building new programs. So for come the new year, that's my goal, is to build out a lot more programs, create some guides. My background's in graphic design, so I am able to do all that, which is really nice. But so it's just hitting those goals now.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting how, especially with because of COVID, actually, a lot of people have done a lot of that shift in the last little while. I think of we interviewed Carrie Pierce not too long ago, and her company has really blown up from that end as well. So so some really kind of neat stuff that's happening in that space. So
for sure.
So, one of the things that that we ask everybody as we go through these as well is just I know people have probably pulled away a lot of really kind of cool things as we go through already, but it's that time of year where people really are kind of looking at, if I want to really tackle my health and fitness and maybe do something to really improve that this year. You're the perfect person to ask that about, because you obviously are the role model yourself, but also in your business, I'm sure you help people with that. So do you have a couple of very specific tips around someone who's listening? What can I do to get myself moving in that direction to make sure that I can make a big change this year?
Yeah, for sure. I have two that I can think of that really have helped me and others. The first one is get a community. So some people to hold you accountable, whether that's joining a gym, joining some online fitness programming, something like that, but really having other people involved to keep you going, keep you motivated can be really helpful. There's a lot of good gyms out there with people who are all have the same goals and focuses. So that can really help. And then always create your why. So the why, and it's got to be for you. So one time I did the rim to rim to rim, which is 50 miles in Grand Canyon. Yeah. And there's one point, and I was told this before, you need a why. Why are you doing this? Because, and it can't be superficial, oh, I want to get fit or whatever. It's really what's the deeper meaning? Because there's going to be a point in your journey or run or race where it's you want to give up, and you have to remember that why to keep going, which is really important to have that self-motivation. So you got to get some why, and it's got to be for you.
Yeah. Okay. And if you were to say one thing that do you have one lofty goal that you would like to set? If you were to win one race or win, or have some kind of big achievement over the next little while, what is the one thing that you have out there as kind of the big audacious goal for you?
The big goal. I would love to win some of the biggest ultras in the world. So there's the one across the desert in California, which is really cool. I'd like to win things like that and just, become one of the top ultra runners over time, because it takes time, especially with your body, to recover. But yeah, I would just say that would be, you know, the ultimate goal and dream, is to, when people think of ultra running, they can think of my name. So
Wow.
that's the goal.
And you know, the other thing that people don't necessarily think about all the time is that you know, you being in kind of the space that you're in also means you have to get sponsors. You have to do all that fun stuff too. And maybe I'll kind of throw it out there. Is that, have you found that that's is that something that you enjoy doing? Is it something that's like, is it difficult for you? I know some athletes will say, oh, the thing I have to do, you know, it's a thing I have to do, but
Right.
but it can be a challenge when you're in some of these spaces. Is that something you find challenging, or, you know, how's that worked for you so far?
I mean, I love working with brands, especially ones I believe in, and I use their products all the time. Like, I've only ran in Merrell shoes for the past like 5 years. And so,
Yeah.
like, kind of in talks with them. And I think it's really fun, but I'm not great at like the self-promotion aspect. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
look at me. Like, I'll do this, I'll wear these products, but like, I think it's important. And it also helps grow brands, and then also helps other athletes know what products are great and what to use based on, you know, people who've used them and it works. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it seems to be, I mean, that's the one thing anyway, that any company that wants to be aligned with you or whatever too probably wants that authenticity
Yes.
piece too, right?
Yeah.
So Meryl, if you're listening, then you should
Yeah.
be connecting with her anyway, because that makes total sense. So okay, well, you know, if people are trying to follow, so first of all, your business obviously, but even just following kind of what's happening with you, what are some of the best ways to do that, Katie?
Yeah, you can check me out on Instagram. My name is K80_night, like K80 night. A little play on that. And then
Yeah.
the link in my bio goes to my online training program where they can sign up. It's nighttime training. And then you can also shoot me a DM and we can talk and go from there. So
Very good. Okay. Well, and what we'll make sure that we do is that we'll put those in the show notes as well, so that people
perfect.
can kind of go directly to that. And yeah, I mean, I know you're busy. I mean, we talked about this morning. I think you've already done a workout this morning, so that's good. We didn't take away from that, but you know, thanks very much for taking the time, and we really appreciate you spending it with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you
No
to all the
problem.
listeners out there.
Yeah.
Good choice in listening to the show, because it's wonderful. So
Well, thank you, and it's because we have such great guests. So thanks very much, Katie. And if you haven't hit subscribe on the podcast, make sure you do it right now, because we do have great guests every week, just like Katie, and you know, lots of things to take away. And I know she's provided a lot of that today. So again, thanks, Katie, and to everybody listening. We'll talk again soon on Big Idea, Big Moves.